I checked my watch for the third time in 10 minutes. 7:58. 2 minutes before Claire arrived, and I still hadn't decided if the candles on the table looked romantic or desperate. 6 years. That was worth something, I told myself. Worth a good table by the window. Worth a bottle of wine she liked. Worth pretending the last few months hadn't felt like living with a roommate who used to love me. I sat down and smoothed my jacket. My phone buzzed. Marcus. Hey man, happy anniversary. Just remember what I told you last week. Watch your phone tonight. I turned the screen face down. Marcus meant well, but tonight wasn't a night to chase shadows. Tonight was supposed to be about fixing things, not finding more reasons to worry. The hostess, a young woman with a warm smile, walked toward the table. Grace. Sir, your wife is already here. She's seated at the table in the back, by the window. Already here. Claire was never early. I thanked her and walked past the other tables, rehearsing the words I'd planned all week. Happy anniversary. I've missed you. I want us to try again. Then I saw her. Claire sat across from a man I didn't know. Dark blazer. Easy posture. The kind of smile that took up too much space. He was leaning toward her like they were finishing a conversation that had been going on for years. My steps slowed. My chest went tight. But I kept walking, because turning around would have meant admitting something I wasn't ready to admit. Claire looked up and her face did something complicated. Somewhere between surprise and guilt. Gone so fast I almost convinced myself I imagined it. Claire, Daniel. You're here. I glanced at the empty chair, then at the man. Me, I am. Am I early? Claire, no, sit down. This is Ryan, an old friend from college. He was in town for work, and we just ran into each other at the bar. Isn't that funny? Funny wasn't the word I would have used. Ryan stood halfway and offered his hand. His grip was firm, the kind of firm that wanted you to notice it. Ryan, Daniel, right? Claire's told me so much about you. Well, actually not that much, but I've heard the name. I forced a laugh that didn't reach anywhere near my chest. Me. All good things, I hope. Ryan, mostly. He smiled like it was a joke. I didn't laugh again. I sat down. Claire reached for her wine glass instead of my hand. Claire, I hope you don't mind. I invited him to stay for a bit. It's been years since we caught up. Mind, as if this was a small thing. As if 6 years of anniversaries hadn't taught me exactly what her tone sounded like when she was deciding something before asking me. Me? Of course not. The more the merrier. I didn't feel merry. I felt like the floor had shifted 2 inches to the left, and nobody else could tell. Under the table, I pulled out my phone for half a second. My wallpaper lit up. Sophie, 4 years old, missing her 2 front teeth, laughing at something off camera. I looked at her face and let it steady me the way it always did. This is fine, I told myself. It's one dinner. One old friend. 6 years doesn't unravel over a bread basket and a bottle of wine. Ryan leaned back in his chair, glancing between Claire and me with an expression I couldn't quite name yet. Curiosity, maybe, or something closer to satisfaction. Ryan. So, Daniel, Claire tells me you're an architect. That's impressive. I'm in real estate myself. Funny how life connects people back together, isn't it? I picked up the menu, so I wouldn't have to answer right away. Me? Funny. Yeah. Claire laughed at something Ryan said next, a Rail laugh, the kind she used to say for me. I stared at the menu without reading a single word on it, and somewhere underneath my calm voice and steady hands, I felt the first crack forming in the 6 years I thought we still had left. The waiter took our orders and left, and Ryan picked up right where he'd stopped, like the table belonged to him. Ryan, remember that trip to the coast, Claire? Junior year? You told your parents it was a study group, and we ended up sleeping in my car because we missed the last ferry back. Claire, oh my God, don't. I forgot about that. My mother would still kill me if she knew. She laughed, head tilted back, hand resting flat on the table, like she needed somewhere to put her happiness. I picked up my water glass and drank slowly, giving myself a reason not to speak. Ryan and the bonfire. Sophomore year. You cried because you thought you lost your ring, and it turned out it was in your other pocket the whole time. Claire, I still have that ring somewhere. Something small moved in my chest at that. I didn't know if it was jealousy or just exhaustion. Me, you two really covered a lot of ground back then. I meant it evenly. But Claire's eyes flicked to me for half a second before sliding back to Ryan. Claire, college feels like another lifetime. Ryan, doesn't it though? God, we were young. I set my glass down. Me, so how exactly did the night happen? You said you ran into each other at the bar? Claire, I told you, yes. I was waiting for you, and Ryan walked by. Me, on the same night as our anniversary, at the same restaurant. Claire, Multan isn't that big, Daniel. That wasn't an answer. It was a wall dressed up as one. I let it go, not because I believed her, but because I didn't want to be the man raising his voice at his own anniversary dinner. Ryan leaned forward, elbows on the table, completely at ease. Ryan, honestly, man, I hope this isn't weird for you. Claire and I go way back. Nothing more than history. Me, history's fine. I just wasn't expecting to share tonight with a stranger. Ryan, fair enough. He didn't look sorry. He looked entertained. Claire reached over and brushed her hand along his sleeve, just for a second, straightening a wrinkle that wasn't really there. Claire, he always did that thing where his cuffs never sat right. My throat went dry. 6 years of marriage. And I couldn't remember the last time she touched my sleeve like that, like it was second nature instead of an effort. Me, Claire. Claire, what? Me, nothing. Just thinking. Grace appeared at the table with a pitcher, refilling our glasses without being asked. Grace, everything all right over here? Can I bring anything else? Claire, we're fine, thank you. Grace's eyes moved me for half a second, like she was checking, and I gave her a small nod. She walked away slowly, glancing back once before disappearing toward the kitchen. Ryan launched into another story, something about a professor who nearly failed them both for skipping class the week of finals. Claire laughed again, easy and warm, the kind of laugh I used to think only I could pull out of her. I sat there, replaying the last 6 years like a film reel stuck on the wrong scene. The late nights she called work stress. The phone she started keeping face down on the counter. The way she stopped asking about my day and started giving short answers about hers. I searched for the exact moment I stopped being enough for her, and I couldn't find it, which somehow made it worse. Me. So Ryan, what brought you to town for work? Ryan, property development. Big project a few blocks from here. Actually, should be finished by next year. Me. Sounds like you'll be around a while. Then. Ryan, looks that way. He smiled at Claire when he said it, not at me, and something in my chest pulled tight, a humiliation I refused to let reach my face. I picked up my fork, cut into food I no longer wanted, and kept my expression as calm as the surface of still water, even as everything underneath it churned. The waiter cleared our appetizer plates, and Ryan lifted his glass before anyone could stop him. Ryan, I want to make a toast. To old memories and old friends who somehow still know how to make each other laugh after all these years. Claire lifted her glass without hesitation, clinking it against us with a smile that hit me harder than anything else that night. It was warm, open, the kind of smile she used to give me before goodnight kisses turned into quick pecks on the cheek, before conversations turned into logistics about Sophie's school pickup, and whose turn it was to do dishes. I lifted my glass too, a beat too late. Me, to old memories. My voice came out flatter than I meant it to. Claire didn't seem to notice. Ryan did. He held my gaze for a second over the rim of his glass, something almost like amusement flickering there. I set my glass down, and the pieces I'd been avoiding all night started arranging themselves whether I wanted them to or not. She didn't run into him at the bar. She invited him. The toast, the stories, the easy laughter, none of it fit an accidental reunion. It fit something planned. I thought about the fights over the last few months, the ones she always blamed on work. Claire, weeks ago, I'm just stressed, Daniel. The Preston account is eating my whole week. Please don't make this bigger than it is. I remembered nights she came home after 10, hair slightly damp like she'd showered somewhere else, smelling faintly a cologne that wasn't mine. I remembered asking her about it once, gently, not accusing, just asking. Me, weeks ago, you smell different tonight. Claire, weeks ago, it's probably the hand soap in the office bathroom. They switched brands. I believed her, because believing her was easier than the alternative. Sitting here now, watching her cling glasses with Ryan like the last 6 years hadn't happened, I understood exactly how much I'd let myself believe. Marcus's text sat unread in my pocket. Watch her phone tonight. I hadn't wanted to listen. Now his warning felt less like suspicion and more like something he'd known and hadn't wanted to say outright. Ryan launched into another story. Something about a road trip neither of them finished telling before Claire cut in, laughing, correcting a detail he'd gotten wrong. I watched them finish each other's sentences like people who'd done it 100 times. Recently, not 6 years ago in a college dorm. I felt my hands tighten around the napkin in my lap. Me, excuse me for a moment. Claire barely looked up. Claire, sure. I stood and walked toward the restroom at the back of the restaurant, keeping my pace even, my face composed, nodding once at Grace as I passed her station. She watched me go with a look that told me she'd already guessed more than she was supposed to. Inside the restroom, I gripped the edges of the sink and stared at myself in the mirror. My reflection looked calmer than I felt, which surprised me. I turned on the tap and splashed cold water on my face, letting it drip down my jaw before reaching for a towel. Me to myself, don't make a scene. Don't beg. Don't give her a version of tonight. She can rewrite later as you overreacting. I thought about Sophie, asleep at my mother's house, unaware that somewhere across town, her parents' marriage was quietly ending over dessert menus and old college stories. I thought about the version of me that wanted to storm back out there and demand answers, flip the table, make Ryan explain exactly what he thought he was doing at my anniversary dinner. I let that version of myself stay in the mirror. Instead, I straightened my jacket, breathed once, slow and even, and made a decision that would define the rest of the night. I wasn't going to beg for her attention. I wasn't going to compete with a ghost from her past for a seat at my own table. I was going to sit back down, stay calm, and let her choices finish the sentence she'd already started. I dried my hands, looked at myself one more time, and walked back out to face whatever came next. I walked back to the table and sat down like nothing had happened. Claire glanced up briefly. Claire, you okay? You were gone a while. Me? Fine. Just needed a minute. Grace appeared right on time, notepad in hand. Grace, can I interest anyone in dessert? We have a chocolate torte tonight. That's very popular. Claire, I'll have that. Ryan, same for me. Me, I'll take the torte too. I didn't want it. I didn't want anything on that table anymore. But ordering dessert felt like the only way to buy myself a few more minutes to sit still and watch. Ryan leaned back, swirling the last of his wine. Ryan, you know, I still can't get over running into Claire like that, especially after the trip. I kept my face even. Me, what trip? Ryan, oh, a couple months back. We ended up at the same conference thing out in the mountains. Small world, right? I looked at Claire. She met my eyes. Me, a conference. Claire, it was for work, Daniel. The one I told you about. The retreat. Ryan, retreat, conference, whatever they called it. Good hiking, though. Claire still remembers the trail names better than I do. Claire's jaw tightened. She reached for her water glass like it might save her from finishing this conversation. Claire, it wasn't anything, Daniel. Me? I didn't say it was. I hadn't raised my voice. I hadn't even accused her of anything. But something in the way I said those 4 words made the table go quiet for a moment, even Ryan's easy confidence flickering for half a second. Grace returned with the desserts, setting them down carefully, glancing at me once before retreating again. I picked up my spoon and ate exactly one by the torte. It tasted like nothing. My hand stayed steady on the table, cutting small, precise pieces, moving them around the plate more than actually eating them. Inside, something was cracking apart piece by piece, but I wasn't going to let it show on my face, not here, not in front of him. Ryan kept talking. Some story about the hiking trail, the sunrise, a photo he'd taken that Claire apparently still had saved somewhere. I stopped listening to the details and just watched her face instead, the way she almost smiled remembering it, then caught herself and looked at me. Claire, Daniel, it really was just me. You don't have to explain the trail names to me. Claire. She stopped talking. Grace approached with a check tucked in a small leather folder and set it near the center of the table, unsure who to hand it to. Ryan reached for it first. Ryan, I've got this one. Me? No. I've got it. I picked up the folder before he could argue, pulled out my card, and handed it to Grace without checking the total. Me? Keep it open. I want to add the tip myself. Grace, of course. She came back a minute later. I filled in a tip that made her eyebrows lift slightly, signed my name, and closed the folder. Then I stood. Claire looked up at me, confused, her fork still halfway to her mouth. Claire, where you going? Me. Home. Eventually. I hope you two have a good rest of the night. Claire. Daniel, wait. I didn't wait. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't knock over my chair. Didn't give Ryan the satisfaction of a scene he could later describe to someone else as dramatic. I just turned and walked toward the door, past Grace, who caught my eye and gave me the smallest nod, like she understood exactly what she just watched happen. Outside, the night air hit my face, cool and sharp after the warmth of the restaurant. I walked to my car, unlocked it, and sat down behind the wheel. I gripped the steering wheel with both hands. And then, alone, with no one left to form calm for, I finally let myself shake. I didn't drive home. I sat in the parking lot for a long time before I finally pulled out onto the road, and somewhere between the second and third traffic light, I made a decision without really deciding anything at all. I turned toward the small hotel near my office, instead of toward our apartment. The woman at the front desk barely looked up from her screen. Clerk. Checking in for one night? Me. Just one night. I didn't know yet that one night would turn into several. The room was plain, a bed, a desk, a window overlooking the parking lot. I sat on the edge of the mattress and stared at the ceiling for a long time, my jacket still on, my shoes still on, like some part of me refused to admit I was actually staying. I started replaying things. Small things I'd let slide for months because fighting felt harder than pretending. Claire, months ago, I have another late meeting tonight. Don't wait up. Claire, months ago, you're being paranoid, Daniel. I don't have time for this. Claire, months ago, why does it matter who I have lunch with? We're colleagues. Every excuse I accepted stacked up now like evidence I refused to read at the time. My phone buzzed. My mother's name lit up the screen. I almost didn't answer, but some instinct made me pick up. Evelyn, Daniel? It's late. Is everything all right? You sound strange. Me, I'm fine, Mom. Just tired. Evelyn, you don't sound fine. You sound like the night your father left. Talk to me. I closed my eyes. Me. Claire brought someone to dinner tonight. An old friend from college. It didn't feel like an accident. Evelyn. Oh, Daniel. Me. I paid the bill and left. I didn't make a scene. I just left. Evelyn, where are you now? Me. A hotel near the office. I needed somewhere quiet. Evelyn. Do you want to come? Me. No. I just need to think. I'll call you tomorrow. I promise. Evelyn. Okay. But Daniel, you did the right thing, walking away calm. That takes more strength than yelling ever would. I thanked her and hung up, grateful she hadn't pushed for more than I could give that night. My phone buzzed again almost immediately. Claire, where are you? Why did you just leave like that? Claire, this is ridiculous, Daniel. Answer me. Claire, are you seriously not coming home tonight? I stared at the messages piling up, each one sharper than the last. Confusion sliding into frustration, sliding into something close to anger, as if I was the one who owed her an explanation. I put the phone face down on the nightstand and didn't respond. The next morning, I met Marcus at a small coffee shop 2 blocks from the hotel. He took one look at my face and didn't bother with small talk. Marcus, you look like you didn't sleep. Me, I didn't. Marcus, what happened? I told him. The dinner, Ryan, the toast, the trip disguised as a conference. Marcus listened without interrupting, his jaw tightening more with every detail. Marcus, Daniel, I have to tell you something I should have told you weeks ago. Me, tell me now. Marcus, I saw them together. Claire and that guy. Twice, actually. Once at a coffee place downtown, once getting into his car outside her office. I told myself it was probably nothing, and I didn't want to blow up your marriage over a guess. My hands went still around my cup. Me, weeks ago. Marcus. Yeah, me. So I was the last one to find out. Marcus, I'm sorry, man. I should have said something sooner. I sat with that for a moment, the coffee shop noise fading into background. It wasn't just one dinner. It wasn't a coincidence, or an old friend passing through town. It was a pattern I'd been too afraid to see, and everyone around me had already started to notice before I let myself. Me. I'm not going back to the apartment tonight either. Marcus, you sure? Me. I've never been more sure of anything. Whatever softness I've been holding on to, whatever hope that this was one bad night and not the truth of the last few months, hardened into something solid and certain sitting across from Marcus in that coffee shop. I wasn't angry anymore, not in the way I expected to be. I just felt clear, for the first time in a long time, about exactly what I needed to do next. I picked Sophie up from my mother's house Saturday morning, and the second she saw me, she ran across the yard with her backpack half open, paper spilling out behind her. Sophie, Daddy. Me. Hey, sweet pea. Ready for our weekend? Sophie, yeah. Grandma said we can watch my show if you say it's okay. Me. Then it's okay. I buckled her into her car seat, and for a moment, watching her kick her feet and hum some song from school, everything else in my chest went quiet. It didn't stay quiet long. Sophie, Daddy, why did you sleep somewhere else? I froze with my hand still on the seatbelt buckle. Me. What do you mean, baby? Sophie, Mommy said you slept somewhere else. Are you and Mommy having a fight? Kids heard more than anyone gave them credit for. I forced my voice steady. Me. Sometimes grown-ups need a little space to think. It's not your job to worry about it. Okay? That's my job. Sophie, okay. Can we get pancakes? Me. We can absolutely get pancakes. Her question stayed with me the whole drive, quiet and sharp underneath the easy conversation we kept having about her favorite cartoon and whether her class hamster had babies yet. Something in me that I thought was already broken cracked a little further, hearing my own daughter ask why her family didn't feel whole anymore. I didn't let it show. Not that weekend. We made pancakes shaped like uneven circles, and she insisted every single one needed chocolate chips for eyes. We watched 3 episodes of her show, and she fell asleep halfway through the 4th with her head against my arm. I carried her to bed and stood in the doorway longer than I needed to, just watching her breathe. My phone buzzed on the kitchen counter most of that weekend. Claire, please call me back. I need to explain. Claire, this isn't fair, Daniel. You're punishing me by ignoring me. Claire, I'm sorry. Please, just talk to me. I didn't answer any of them. Not out of cruelty. Just because I didn't trust my own voice yet to stay as calm as I needed it to be around Sophie. Sunday evening, while Sophie colored the kitchen table, my phone rang with a number I didn't immediately recognize. Diane, Claire's mother. Diane, Daniel. I hope it's all right that I'm calling. Me, of course, Diane. Is everything okay? Diane, I heard what happened. Claire told me, in her own version anyway. I want to talk to you, mother to almost son, before this goes any further than it needs to. Me, I'm listening. Diane, there's something about Ryan you should understand. Years ago, before you two even met, Claire and Ryan were engaged. I sat down slowly at the table across from Sophie, keeping my face neutral for her sake. Me, engaged. Diane, he left her 2 weeks before the wedding. No real explanation. Just gone. She never talked about it, not even with me. Not really. She buried it and moved forward like it never happened. I always worried it would come back for her someday. Me. That explains a lot. Diane, it doesn't excuse what she did to you. Nothing excuses that. But I thought you deserved to understand the wound underneath it, not just a mistake on top of it. Me. Thank you for telling me, Diane. I mean that, Diane. Take care of yourself, Daniel. And that little girl. I sat there after we hung up, turning the new piece over in my mind. It didn't change what I saw at that dinner table. It didn't make the toast, the trip, the lies feel any smaller. But it gave the whole thing a shape I hadn't seen before, an old wound Claire never let heal, colliding with a man who knew exactly how to press against it. Sophie held up a drawing, 3 stick figures under a yellow sun. Sophie, look, Daddy. That's you, me, and Mommy. I looked at the three uneven circles, holding hands, and felt something in my chest ache in a way I didn't have words for yet. Me, it's beautiful, sweet pea. A message came through on a number I didn't recognize Monday afternoon. Lily, hi Daniel, this might seem strange, but my name is Lily. I used to be engaged to Ryan Cole. A mutual friend told me what happened at your anniversary dinner. Do you have a few minutes to talk? I stared at the screen for a long moment before typing back. Me, I have time now, actually. She called almost immediately. Lily, thank you for picking up. I know this is out of nowhere. Me, I appreciate you reaching out. Honestly, I could use some clarity right now. Lily, that's exactly why I called. I don't think you're getting the full picture, and I wish someone had given it to me sooner. Me, I'm listening. Lily, Ryan and I were together almost 2 years. Engaged for 6 months of that. He has a pattern, Daniel. He finds women who feel invisible in their own relationships, women who feel unappreciated or unseen, and he makes them feel like the only person in the room. It's intoxicating, especially if you've been starving for that kind of attention for a while. My chest tightened, but I stayed quiet, letting her keep going. Lily, it's not really about the woman. It's about the chase. Once things get complicated, once there's real consequences, a marriage falling apart, a family involved, he disappears. That's what he does. Claire isn't the first, and I doubt she'll be the last. Me, how many others? Lily, I know of at least 2 before me. I was foolish enough to think I'd be different. I wasn't. I sat back in my chair, letting that settle. Me, I keep asking myself what I did wrong, what I missed, what made her want something else. Lily, Daniel, I don't know your marriage, and I'm not saying Claire doesn't share responsibility for what she did. She does. But this isn't really about you not being enough. This is about a man who's very good at finding cracks that already existed and making them feel like the whole foundation. Something in my chest loosened slightly. Hearing that out loud from someone who had no reason to lie to me. Me! Thank you for telling me this, Lily. I mean that, Lily. I hope it helps, even a little. I wish someone had warned me. We hung up, and I sat with quiet in my hotel room for a long time afterward, turning her words over. Claire's choice wasn't erased by what Lily told me. She still invited him. She still lied about the trip, but I stopped turning the blame entirely inward. Stopped searching for the version of myself that could have prevented this if I'd just been a better husband. Claire had an old wound Ryan knew exactly how to press against. That was on both of them, not on me. I picked up my phone and called Tom. Tom, Daniel, good to hear from you. What's going on? Me, I want to file for a temporary separation. I've thought about it enough. I'm ready. Tom, talk me through what happened. I gave him the short version, calm, factual, none of the shakes still sitting underneath my ribs. Tom, given everything you've told me, a temporary separation makes sense while you sort out next steps. I can have paperwork ready by Thursday. Me, Thursday works. Tom, you sound sure about this. Me, I am. For the first time in weeks, I actually feel like I'm choosing something instead of just reacting to whatever happens next. Tom, that's a good place to start from. We finished the call, and I set my phone down on the desk, looking out at the parking lot below. The version of me that walked out of that restaurant 3 nights ago had been shaking, uncertain, blindsided. The version of me sitting in this hotel room now felt steadier, like the ground had finally stopped shifting beneath my feet. By the time Tom filed the separation paperwork, word had already started moving through our circle the way these things always do, quietly, then all at once. Marcus called me Wednesday morning. Marcus, hey, so apparently half our friend group knows about the dinner now. Claire's friend Priya told my wife everything. Me, I figured we'd get out eventually. Marcus, how are you holding up? Me, steadier than I expected to be, honestly. Marcus, good. For what it's worth, nobody's taking her side on this one. I didn't feel any satisfaction hearing that. I just felt tired. Claire called that same afternoon, her voice tighter than usual. Claire, everyone's looking at me differently now. Priya barely spoke to me at lunch. Did you tell people what happened? Me, I didn't have to, Claire. You brought him to a restaurant we both know half our friends go to. Claire, this is a mess. Me, yes, it is. She went quiet for a moment, and I could hear her breathing shift on the other end. Claire, Ryan stopped answering my calls. I wasn't surprised. Lily had told me exactly how this would go. Me, I see. Claire, that's all you have to say? Me, what do you want me to say, Claire? She didn't answer that either. Friday afternoon, I was reviewing blueprints at my office when my assistant knocked on the door. Assistant, Daniel, Claire's here. She says it's important. I hesitated, then nodded. Me, send her in. Claire walked in looking smaller than I remembered her, her eyes already red. A tissue balled up in one hand. Claire, can we talk? Really talk, not over the phone. Me, sit down. She sat across from my desk, twisting the tissue between her fingers. Claire, Ryan hasn't answered a single call since Monday. It's like I stopped existing to him the second things got complicated. Me, I'm sorry that happened to you. I mean that. Claire, do you? Because it sounds like you're relieved. Me, I'm not relieved you're hurting, Claire. I'm just not surprised. She looked down at the tissue in her hands. Claire, I don't even know why I did it. That's the truth. I've been asking myself for days, and I don't have a good answer. Me, try anyway. Claire, I felt invisible, Daniel, for a long time. You'd come home and go straight to your blueprints, and I'd talk, and you'd say without looking up. Weekend became about Sophie's schedule and grocery lists. I stopped feeling like your wife and started feeling like a co-manager of a household. Me, I didn't know you felt that way. Claire, I tried to tell you. Small ways. You didn't hear it, or you didn't want to. Me, maybe both. I'm not going to pretend I was perfect in this. Claire, when Ryan showed up again, he made me feel seen for the first time in years. Wanted. It felt good, even though I knew it was wrong the entire time. Me. And instead of talking to me about any of that, you brought him to our anniversary dinner. Claire, I don't have an excuse for that part. I know I don't. I sat back in my chair, studying her face. A year ago, seeing Claire cry in front of me would send me straight into fixing mode, softening my voice, reaching for her hand, promising we'd figure out together. That instinct didn't come this time. I just felt sad, in a quiet, settled way, watching someone I used to love unravel a situation entirely of her own making. Claire, is there any chance we... Me? No, Claire. Not right now. Maybe not ever. I need you to hear that clearly. She nodded slowly, more tears falling. And for the first time all week, I let myself just witness her pain without rushing to carry any of it for her. Claire, okay, I understand. She left a few minutes later, and I sat alone in my office, oddly calm. My assistant knocked again, holding a folder. Assistant, Daniel, Mr. Preston's office called. He wants you personally on the new downtown project. It's a big one. I opened the folder and looked at the proposal, a project large enough to fill every spare hour I had for months. Me, tell them I'm in. For the first time since that dinner, I had something in front of me worth pouring myself into that wasn't grief. For months after that dinner, Tom called with the final paperwork. Tom, the divorce is finalized, Daniel. Signed, filed, done. How are you feeling? Me, lighter than I expected. Tom, that's usually a good sign. We'd kept it quiet, no dramatic court battles, no fighting over furniture or photo albums. Claire and I sat across from each other at mediation and made decisions like two adults who once loved each other and still shared a daughter we're protecting. Claire, at mediation, I want Sophie to know we handled this well. Whatever else happened, she doesn't deserve to grow up thinking her parents hated each other. Me, agreed. Let's keep it that way. And we did. Tuesdays and Thursdays were mine. Weekends alternated. Birthdays. We showed up together, sitting a few feet apart at the same table, both of us clapping for the same little girl blowing out candles. Claire, at pickup one evening, thank you for how you've handled all this. I know I didn't make it easy. Me, we're doing it for her. That's enough of a reason. Claire, I still think about that night. I probably always will. Me, I've stopped replaying it. Mostly, I had to, for my own sake. Claire, I'm glad. You deserve that. It wasn't friendship, not exactly, but it was peace, and after everything, peace felt like enough. Somewhere in those 4 months, Hannah became a quiet fixture in my days without either of us naming it. She worked 2 floors above me, and our conversation started over shared elevator rides and coffee runs before turning into actual lunches. Hannah, you've seemed lighter lately. Good lighter, not fake lighter. Me, I think I finally am. Hannah, I'm glad. For what it's worth, I always thought you handled everything with a lot more grace than most people would have. Me, I didn't feel graceful. I mostly felt like I was barely holding it together. Hannah, sometimes that looks the same from the outside. I found myself telling her things I hadn't said out loud yet, not the details Marcus already knew, but the quieter parts, how it felt to sit at that table and realize 6 years had been slipping away before I even noticed. Hannah listened without trying to fix anything, without rushing me toward some version of healed I wasn't ready for yet. Hannah, no pressure on any of this, by the way. I like getting coffee with you. That's enough for now. Me, that's enough for me too. It wasn't rushed, and I was grateful for that. I wasn't ready to hand my whole heart to anyone yet, but I liked who I was becoming around her, steadier, more myself than I'd been in a long time. My mother noticed the change too. The Sunday I brought Sophie over for dinner. Evelyn, you look like yourself again, Daniel. It's been a while. Me, it's been a process. Evelyn, I'm proud of you, you know, the way you handled that whole thing. You didn't scream. You didn't destroy anything out of spite. You just walked away with your dignity intact, and you kept showing up for that little girl every single day since. Me, I didn't feel strong most of those nights. Evelyn, strength isn't about how you feel in the moment. It's about what you do anyway. And you did the right thing, over and over. Even when it would have been easier not to, I let that sit with me, turning it over the way I'd turned over so many other conversations these past months. 3 weeks later, I sat in a folding chair in Sophie's school auditorium, program crumpled slightly in my hand, waiting for her class to take the stage. Claire sat 2 seats down, both of us there for the same reason, neither of us needing to sit closer than that anymore. The lights dimmed. Sophie walked out in her small costume, scanning the crowd until she found me. Her whole face lit up, and she waved, big and unashamed, the way only a 4-year-old can wave. I waved back, throat tight, chest full in a way that had nothing to do with grief. Watching her up there, laughing through a song she'd practiced in our kitchen 100 times, I thought about that night at the restaurant, the toast, the quiet bill, the version of me shaking alone in my car afterward. I used to think walking out of that dinner was the moment everything fell apart. Sitting in that auditorium now, I understood it differently. It wasn't the ending. It was the beginning of something I hadn't let myself have in years. A life where I stopped shrinking myself down to fit someone else's attention. Stopped waiting quietly for someone to finally choose me the way I kept choosing them. I didn't need revenge. Ryan's disappearing act had handled that on its own, and Claire's unraveling had never needed my help either. What I needed was simpler and harder. I needed to stop waiting for someone to choose me. I needed to start choosing myself. Sophie waved again from the stage, and I smiled, and for the first time in a long while, it wasn't forced at all.